is there anything okay.
It's a standard holding tank agreement. This will be followed by a temporary occupancy permit, but, that's gonna be part of it. I worked with the solicitor's office to make sure this is pretty boilerplate, and it was,
Is this the one though where, the homeowner was going to install the tank?
yeah, but that I think falls under the temporary occupancy permit portion, not the holding tank. This just says that they can have it, correct?
It's extremely important, I talked to Michael about this. If that were to be done, we still need a bona fide estimate of
Yeah.
what it would cost.
Yes,
And that's the amount that he has to post.
115% of that.
Right.
Yeah,
But it's not his estimate.
correct.
He has to produce an independent estimate.
Yeah, I spoke with him, and that is part of the temporary occupancy that he has to post, and he's gonna get me an estimate, from someone who is not him, that has a certified, contractor or insured, like,
It has
contractor.
experience in installing this
Yes,
type of tank.
yes, that's local. So that is gonna come, and then from that, you'll see on hopefully the next agenda, for his sake, the temporary occupancy permit approval, which will have that piece involved.
We'll work with you on that and watch that to make sure it's done right. 'Cause it's out of the ordinary for the homeowner to install his own tank.
I have a comment. I spoke to Terry this morning about it. It's my understanding, the Washington County Sewage Association, they inspect this to get the tank when it goes in. Is that correct?
They would do the inspection, yes.
I was concerned about it. I think we should get a copy of the inspection. The guy's buying the tank. I hope he's buying the right tank that they want. And I really think we need to add to this permit a removal policy that's acceptable to Washington County.
So I spoke to our sewage enforcement officer about this, because we spoke earlier, and he handed me just now the rules and regulations that they have for holding tanks, and so I will share this with everybody, Mr. Lawson, and we can talk about that, because I do think that was a very valid point.
I'm just worried about it when, how long he's gonna put it in, or it's no longer needed, he's gonna have to remove it, there should be a process. I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel, but it seems like a holding tank would be a subject. That's all I have on that.
Gary, do you feel okay with this holding tank agreement as it is?
I would table it. I haven't
Okay.
seen the response, I haven't seen the estimate.
Isn't that
The
for?
homeowner, the property owner has some work to do before we can recommend approval of the holding tank.
But isn't that for the temporary occupancy permit? Like, he needs both the holding tank and the temporary occupancy permit, holding tank agreement and a temporary occupancy permit in order to even purchase the home.
Right, but we can't give him a temporary occupancy until we know that he's gonna comply with a signed holding tank agreement.
Right, and this is just the holding tank agreement portion. So you're saying we can't do the holding tank agreement portion until we do the temporary occupancy agreement portion?
We can do it at the same time. I still wanna see the estimate. He wants to do this himself, we just wanna make sure it's not calculated. And at the end of the day, the inspection is denied because he didn't do it right, so I'm sure he does. And we just need to really emphasize, if you're gonna do this yourself, you gotta be really careful.
No, absolutely, I understand. I guess I was confused because I thought they were two separate things, and since this portion was done, it could be.
Well, you're only gonna give him temporary occupancy if he commits to installing the holding tank within, I think it's 6 months. So until he has agreed to that, you can't give him temporary occupancy.
Right, we weren't approving a temporary occupancy.
So what Terry's asking, Attorney Sweat, is it okay, you know, should the board consider the holding tank agreement? Or you're saying to table that until the occupancy permit is on together? You want it to be together and you wanna look at some,
We can table and have them together, but I was just, and I apologize, I was confused because the portion that Gary's speaking, Solicitor Sweat speaking of, which like absolutely, and I discussed with his office, needs to happen, but I thought that was, well, I mean, it is totally part.
Permit once the tank's done, will we still need a temporary occupancy permit once the tank is done?
No, that
That's what
would
I'm
be
saying,
permanent
so,
occupancy
yeah.
at that point.
So you're, what's on the agenda then is for us to approve the process, but ultimately Washington County Storage Council inspects that and everything anyway.
So
right?
they inspect it, but the holding tank permits are like the legal end where we hold, they have to get a permit with us every year, it says our ordinance, they have to like renew it. They have to send us the pumping receipt, so we make sure it's maintained, and they have to give us a $2,000 escrow, so that if their holding tank is faulty, then we can go and
Ultimately,
fix
this
it.
vote's just to start that process.
It's correct.
So we're not giving them occupancy, but we're just starting the agreement for them Washington County Storage Council to.
But there's no
inspect
problem
it.
with this holding off until the temporary occupancy
Or,
permit.
as long as it's subject to the solicitor's approval. We're approving a holding tank agreement that I haven't seen in terms of his estimate and some of the other language on inspection that needs to go into it. So, yeah, he absolutely is entitled to a holding tank agreement so long as my office approves it. And the facts that have been made known to me require that this agreement be tweaked a little bit because he's doing the project.
But that is the portion that's on the temporary occupancy permit.
He can't get temporary occupancy unless he gives me a signed holding tank agreement with the appropriate escrow. That's the whole purpose of this. We don't let someone in a house that has a holding tank that's failed, or a septic system that's failed, unless we know that within a certain period of time, they're gonna fix the
Yeah,
problem.
it's fine, we should just table it. The template that I was given, just to explain, had this, the only escrow that was associated with the holding tank agreement was the $2,000 for maintenance. The escrow that would be for the installation was attached to the temporary occupancy permit. So then
You
we should table it.
misunderstood.
Yeah, then we should table it.
Okay, I would like to make a motion to, well, let me read the motion. Did I read it yet? I can't even remember. Number 9, approve deny holding tank agreement for 123 Houston Run Road. That's number 9. I'd like to make a motion to table the holding tank agreement for 123 Houston Run Road.
I'll second the motion to table the holding tank agreement.
So Supervisor Dare, and Supervisor Watson, motions and seconds. Is there any discussion? Okay, roll call vote please.
Ms. Dupree,
Yes.
Mr. Trax,
Yes.
Ms. Dare,
Yes.
Mr. Lawson.
Yes.
Item 10, approve deny Terry Gladys to attend